Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the Board of Adjustment to order. First, let me announce all decisions of the Board are considered final. If there's anyone aggrieved by the decision of the Board, you may appeal to Circuit Court within 15 days of the Board's decision. Also, no permits or license can be issued until that 15-day appeal period has expired and no appeal has been filed. For information regarding the Board's decision or an appeal to Circuit Court, the Office of Land Use Administration will be your contact. As you come to the podium, I ask that you give your name and address for the record. Address your questions and comments to the board, not to others in the audience or to the staff unless we direct you. There's a 5-minute limitation on speakers, normally 4 in support of a variance request, 4 in opposition. So if you have more than 4, I'd ask that you appoint your 4 early. If you have any handouts at this time, I'd ask that you give them to the staff so that we don't have a disruption during the meeting. Also, for the board and for those in attendance, turn your electronic devices to silent or off so that we don't have a disturbance. Okay, with that, we'll call for roll call. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Golden? Mr. Metcalf?
Here.
Mr. Milling? Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Morris? Absent. And I'm William Guess. We have 6 of the 7 members present. It takes 5 for a motion. We have a quorum. Therefore, we'll continue with the meeting. Chair entertain adoption of the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll start with the first application, 6501, 6214. This is regarding 221 Dolphin Street. Good afternoon. Name and address.
Robert Morin, 601 St. Anthony.
Okay. If you will, tell us about the variance request.
We requested this a few years ago when we first were to construct the gallery. And it was approved, and we have since then run the timeout on that approval and applied for extending it and was approved again. But it's been a few years, so it's run out. We've asked again for, basically the request is to remove the bases from the columns, which are standard downtown, and the column caps. And the thickness of the deck was part of that too. So that's the request, is to change those items because of the style of the building.
Okay. Have you seen the staff's recommendations? I recommend approval with permits and full compliance with all other municipal ordinances and codes. I suspect you're in agreement.
I probably do. If it says that they approve it, then yes.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions of the board for the applicant? Turn on your mic, please.
It's been around a while, so it's. Did you say hold it up? You're welcome to see it. Thanks a lot.
That's why I like Robert's presentations. They're awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's a very modern building, so we're doing this modern gallery.
Okay. And do you think if the board should choose to approve the variance, this time it might be finished?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the contractor's here waiting for me to say yes. So.
Okay. All right. Do we have
but
anyone?
I don't control that, so
All right. For a matter of record, do we have anyone in the audience in support or opposition today? All right. We have none for the record. All right. That'll conclude our public hearing on your variance request. Comments of the board?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay. I have a motion to approve subject to staff recommendations. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? A motion carries. All right. Let's go to our next application, which would be 6505. This is PCDA Architecture. Yes,
Yes,
sir. Your
I'm
name
Paul
and address.
Davis with PCDA Architecture. And so we're requesting a variance to make an addition to this structure. You can see on the picture that probably 60 to 70% of it was built. And there are no recorded setbacks on the deed, but those setbacks shown are from the city standards as we understand them. So a good portion of the existing home is already outside of the setbacks. The owner would like to add on to the house, so we're requesting a variance to let the addition encroach on the setbacks.
Okay. Staff's recommended for approval of this application for a variance. Have you reviewed the conditions of the staff?
Yeah. If you got one, let's see.
I'll give you a chance to review those. Any questions of the board for the applicant? I have a question for staff. The current structure, were there any previous variances?
No, sir. Pinehurst, while it was predominantly built out in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, was actually platted over 100 years ago. And the area actually had some development in it prior to being annexed into the city in the 1950s. This home predates annexation.
Okay. All right. Once again, any questions of the board for the applicant? Are you in agreement with the staff's recommendations?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do we have anyone in the audience either in favor or in opposition to the variance request? Okay, for the record, we have none. All right. That'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Chair, entertain questions or comments? All right. Chair, entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay, a motion to approve with a second, subject to staff recommendations. I have a second already. With the second, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Application 6506, 6473 regarding 4685 Airport Boulevard.
Good afternoon. I'm Warren Robinson with Victor Sign Company, 5000 Whitworth Road, Mobile.
Okay.
Back,
Yeah, we're still in the old format. I was just verifying. Okay, staff's recommended approval for this application as well. Have you reviewed the staff recommendations?
Yes,
Okay. All right, any questions of the board for the applicant? This is for a digital sign. Where's the residential property again?
Believe it or not, the tire company, it's zoned residentially.
I couldn't find any residential over there. That's the reason why I was curious.
Yes, and unfortunately, the ordinance states zoning, not use.
Okay. And it will fall within the size that it's allowed by this site. Okay. All right. Do we have anyone in the audience in favor or opposition that has anything to add today to this variance request? Okay, that'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Chair, entertain a motion. Subject to staff. I have a motion to approve subject to staff recommendations. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're on applications 6507, 4555, 4428, 4265, 486, and 285. Yes, sir, your name and address.
Good afternoon. I'm Zach Valet with James B. Donaghy, 1770 Old Shell Road.
Okay, the staff has recommended approval with conditions conditions for this application as well. Have you seen the staff's recommendations?
We have seen it. We have 2 objections to the recommendation.
Okay, let's proceed then. Just tell us about your application.
We are getting a site variance to amend an existing variance, and we're using that to build a warehouse on our property.
Okay, and what would be the exceptions to the staff's comments?
The 60-foot queue space or the automated gate opener for our gate. That gate, we open every morning at 6:30 and close it at 5:30, so it stays open throughout the day. And we have set shipping hours and receiving hours from 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Okay, and the gate's existing?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the other exception?
The other exception is they have requested a sanitary for our dumpsters, and those are existing dumpsters, and that would be a major cost and affect our operations to add a sanitary to our existing dumpsters. Those are only metal, and we use a outside service to haul the metal dumpsters out.
Yeah, the pictures look like, and we do have handouts, by the way, staff, for, for the board. So the roll-offs are the only dumpsters that are utilized?
Yes, sir. And that's number 3 on our handout. And I've attached pictures in the back of that.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant? I think they're still reviewing your packet. So, question, when the gate was initially installed, was there a recommendation for a queuing lane?
The gate's about 15, 20 feet off the road. The gate's open before we open, and yeah.
Pull your mic closer.
So if the gate, we had some guarantee that the gate is going to be open from 6:30 to 5:30, that may, be something that we'd be willing to accommodate. But if you did get to a situation where you had to do that, we are concerned about the potential traffic hazards of having someone partially in a roadway while they're unlocking the gate. Can you give us any guarantees?
We can guarantee it. We've been doing it that way for over 50 years.
Yeah. And right now, what was the recommendation, our recommendation to you?
It was at a automated gate opener or a 60-foot offset, which
Yeah. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty at this time to make a ruling. I'd have to take that back to the office. I'm filling in for someone that just couldn't make it today. But I know that that's a potential conflict that we need to discuss internally. Is that?
they've approved previous variances with it as the way it is.
But
with
the
the
most
gate-
recent review we had these notes from traffic engineering that we just discussed, correct?
Yeah, for this one, I'm not sure about the previous one. The previous one was approved.
Ones, I'm not sure if that's anything that has any bearing on us making a decision right now or not. We just need to discuss it back at traffic engineering and discuss is this something that we can live with or that we need to alter somehow. But I can't do it right now.
Well, it might be one of those that if problems in the future occur, then it could be coordinated with.
Can we make that kind of conditional?
Yeah, I was about to say we can add a condition that the gate be open during normal operating hours, and it's only locked at night.
And if problems should occur in the future, then they can coordinate with
Then-
traffic,
Then they,
make it conditional.
And if we could go one step further, still, there's people on the road before 6:30 and after 5:30. If you had a vehicle that was less than 20 feet, that you could commit to being the first in and the last out, and not, say, someone in a longer truck than 20 feet, that would.
Instead of tying it to a certain time, like 6 to 5:30, just say during operations. If they're open till 6 at night, then it's got to stay open till 6 at night.
I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing. I'm talking about if they do want to lock that gate, when they go home or when they're coming into work, we don't want there to be a situation where there's a large vehicle that's extended into Old Shell Road that would be a potential.
Yeah, we lock it and unlock it from the inside. So we're not block the road when we unlock it and lock it.
How do you get in?
There's a gate on the south side on Old Shell where we come in that way.
That has possibilities.
Okay.
If we could, I think if we were to make that a condition that you don't open the gate with a vehicle that would extend into the roadway, and maybe make a note in there that if that problem is maybe observed and it becomes problematic, would we have the opportunity to come back later and make them fix the problem according to our current requirements?
I'm sure we could put conditions. I think during operating hours, and then if problems occur, then they'll have to come back to traffic to coordinate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are you saying traffic that what you're concerned about is a truck being on the side and then getting out of the vehicle and opening the gate and going in?
Correct.
Okay. I think what the applicant is saying is that that's not what they do on that side. They come in, the regular passenger traffic comes
Right.
in at another gate, which is that's what they've been doing for,
Infirmary
they've been
Boulevard
doing
is
that for
the
50
gate.
years. So,
The gate in question is on Mobile Infirmary. The gate we come in and out of is on Old Shell.
Okay. Yeah, as long as we had some recourse if it becomes a problem, I guess I could. I'd rather take this back to our director, but if that's problematic.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Has there ever been in the 50, 60 years that they've been in operations, has it been an issue? I don't want to delay them. I understand your position, but I don't want to delay the application just for that. I mean, we have the right to enforce it because it's a condition of the approval, and if they violate it, it becomes a problem, we receive complaints, then the city can investigate it and enforce the condition. So that just comes with that condition being attached.
If we could enforce that, then I think
sure.
if I'm the only one holding it up, then I don't want to be the only one holding it up. As long as we know we can come back later. If
I
it becomes a
deferred to
problem.
ask you the question for a purpose, so I appreciate it, because the gate is a comment in the staff's recommendations. Obviously, the way this site's going to work is changing, because you're doing some development on the site, correct? So therefore, things will be a little different than they may have been in the past. So,
Truck entrance and exit won't change. This is going to be on the back of the property, so
okay,
in that case, it won't change anything.
all right. I think that's our key point. All right, any other questions of the board?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned, and you've answered, council, my concerns, and you sort of answered my concern. The concern that I have is that traffic has increased in that vicinity right there with those restaurants over there. And then we had a situation where there was some speeding that took place and someone was killed. I'm concerned equally like you are about that. But if council says that we have the right to enforce it if it becomes problematic, then I can deal with that. But I just wanted to lift that up for the record, that there has been an increase in the volume of traffic in that area because of the restaurant competition in that area. Good.
Okay. Any other comments or questions of the board?
The only thing I'll say, Mr. Davis, just to your comment, I think that the increase in traffic is not going to be applicable here just because the way their current procedure works, they're coming off of Old Shell early in the morning, going through just a normal gate that's set off from Old Shell Road, and then they will open this gate from the interior, so all the truck traffic, there's not going to be a truck pulling up ever there that's going to open it and clog up the side street there, which was Infirmary Drive.
Yeah.
So, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm satisfied. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments of the board? All right, do we have anyone in the audience either in support or opposition to this request today? Okay, we have none. That'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Staff's recommended for approval subject to conditions. The applicant has agreed to the conditions. With that, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I recommend approval subject to staff recommendations and with one additional condition, stating the obvious, but the condition is that all passenger traffic will and will continue to use the Old Shell Road gate and not the infirmary side.
Okay, Ms. Pappas, you have a comment?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. You said it's subject to staff recommendations, and you added that. Did you want to amend
That's what I
any
was
of
doing.
the conditions?
Yes, that's what I was doing.
Okay,
I didn't
so,
use the word amend, Margaret.
I'm sorry. Well, I just wanted to make sure.
I added one.
Okay, and then you wanted the gates open during business hours, correct?
During operations.
Got it.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
What about the dumpsters?
The dumpster, he has requested an exception on that. The staff's recommended for approval subject to a dumpster drainage system per current code.
Are you okay with that, sir?
That's one of the exceptions we're taking, is adding the sanitary, as it's a existing circumstance, and the addition does not change that. And it's going to be a major cost and impact to our operations to add a sanitary line to that dumpster.
Okay, the dumpsters are not for refuse, are they? They're for
They're for metal,
metal and,
scrap metal.
And it's existing.
Correct.
Okay. My recommendation for approval does not include the sanitary to the dumpster.
so the variance,
Since it's an existing condition.
so the variance for that is approved, or recommended for approval.
Yes.
Can I make a comment? And it's
Yeah.
just clarification, just for the applicant, is that, as a board, we cannot make a decision based on cost. So just for your standpoint, I know that's one of the issues for y'all, but just as a point of clarification, we can't make a decision based on that. It's got to be a hardship. And I think you do have a hardship in this situation with regards to the dumpster, but just want to make that comment.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments, questions of the board?
I'm done.
Okay, I have a motion with conditions, the variance for the dumpster enclosure and drainage is as part of his motion, and also the gates to be open during normal operation.
Yes.
Okay. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion's approved. Thank you. Yep, have a good day. All right. 6508, 6209. This is 5440D US Highway 90 West. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jennifer from Ryco Signs,
Your address, please.
5440 US Highway 90 West, the Little Caesars at Tillman's Corner. I
Okay.
am here on behalf of my client.
So tell us why the board should consider your application for a variance.
Thank you. They have an end cap in this center, and the front elevation faces a parking lot. The side elevation faces Government Boulevard. It's a very congested shopping center. The traffic flow is heavy, and so they're hoping that this will help direct the people to the drive-through, just because there's so many entrances. So if you look at I was out there this morning. If you look at the elevation, let me see. Yeah, front straight on the south elevation, that faces the parking lot. So you'd have no knowledge the drive-through is to the side up there on the picture that's shown. And then that faces Government Boulevard. So we are aware that a previously approved sign variance allowed 2 informational signs. I'm not really sure if the drive-through, that doesn't say drive-through, that just says Little Caesars. So I know that's not informational. But
Okay. Any questions of the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So Jennifer, you're saying that the requested sign says Little Caesars and not drive-through?
yes, sir, it does. They both say Little Caesars.
Okay. It does not say drive-through now.
No.
Okay. So how are they supposed to know if you get that sign approved that that's a drive-through?
There is a drive-through now. Yeah, it is Little Caesars drive-through now. It is, I'm sorry.
Now? What do you mean now?
No, now it will be, it says Little Caesars drive-through. Now is in what they're proposing.
Okay, but we don't have okay, as is. You don't have a depiction of the, these are new formats, so I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
We don't have a depiction of what the new sign would be?
No, sir. I think their main signage they're wanting is on that awning for the window to say the drive-through.
Oh,
So
okay.
it will be a raceway. Again, they are wanting a Little Caesars raceway. And then the drive-through will be depicted on that awning.
Okay, so on that awning, and then the Little Caesars is the raceway.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I know this site pretty well. We've got a McDonald's to the east of this.
Yes.
You have a bank, I think Regions, a little bit to the southeast. So that obstructs part of the view of this, and it does get quite congested.
Yes,
from
sir.
my experience. And the subway still in this facility?
Yes, sir. It's in one of the shops inside. Another.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board, once again, for the applicant? All right, do we have anyone here in the audience in support or opposition? Okay. You have to come give us your name and address, sir.
My name's James Bolin, 27.
Pull the mic a little
Oh,
closer.
sorry. James Bolin, 2705 East Road. I'm the Director of Operations for Little Caesars. What we're asking for is not the government side. That sign's already there. What we're asking for is the building that's facing towards Winn-Dixie. Our delivery company backed up and hit that sign. So we're asking to fix that sign to get it going, and that's why when we had to get permits, because we had 2 signs. The one that's facing Government Street, if we took that one down, then it would just say Subway, and Subway is 3 slots down from us. So what we're asking for is that we can replace the sign that's been damaged and not touch anything else. The one that you're looking at right there, that's not damaged. That's the side of our building. That's our drive-through. What is damaged is the front of the building, which you can see up there, where she's circling. That's what got damaged when our delivery truck, because they go through the front door, and they hit the curb and hit the building. And he damaged the front of the sign. So all we're asking for is to replace that sign. We're not asking to add any more. We're just trying to fix what's broken.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right, once again, do we have anyone in the audience either in support or opposition to this variance request?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Staff, why would we need that for a repair?
It's not a repair, it's a replace.
Okay, but does it not, what's the problem?
The problem is it's
I know, in
non-conforming.
what way?
It was there prior to annexation,
I know.
and they have more signs than is allowed.
So
And-
it's just a replacement of an existing.
Exactly, but because it's now been annexed into the city, when you get a new sign permit, you have to be compliant, and it's not.
But if there had been a previous variance, it wouldn't have been a problem.
He'd have just swapped out as long as he didn't change the dimensions.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, and I think I've already asked, is there anyone in favor or opposition today? Okay, that'll conclude our public hearing on this variance request. With that, Chair entertain a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Okay, have a motion to approve, a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? A motion carries. All right, we are on 6509, 5980, 5989, 5778, 5585, 3157, and 1500. 2300, 33, and 2335 Dolphin Island Parkway. Yes, sir. Your name and address for the record.
Jerry Bird Surveying, 2609 Halls Mill Road, Mobile. Here for the owner.
Okay.
The Wright Transportation's been in business, this location, quite a while. They've experienced good growth. They have too many employees for the inside of the current building, and they would like to put a temporary office building for a period of 2 years. I asked him about the 2-year time frame. He said, actually, the decision would be made at the end of the first year. If they still needed office space, they would consider adding on to their existing building or finding a new location for the whole operation. But 2 years is what they're asking for.
Didn't we provide a variance to this site years ago?
Oh, more than that. There have been multiple variances going across multiple pieces of property. This depicts the overall property that is being utilized by Wright Transportation and has multiple variances going across. If approved, we would want a revised site plan submitted that would illustrate the current condition for the overall piece of property, including this particular building. Because what we have right now is kind of a puzzle piece of how the property's been developed, and we would need one showing the current condition.
All right. What's the size of the current building?
The temporary?
No, the current.
4,000 square feet, I think, 4,500.
How many employees do they have currently?
Sir?
How many current employees?
I had that on the site plan, I think, but I don't know the number.
While you're trying to figure that out, let me ask Staff something. Have we ever had any public comments since the last variance request on this? Any comments on this application?
None were submitted. You know, this has been on the portal and available for comments. Notice has been sent, and we did not receive any comments on the portal or any email in opposition.
Okay. Because I remember on previous, we had people come down that were in opposition or had questions.
I'm not sure if anybody signed up today or not to speak, but at this point, for this application, we have not received anything.
Okay. Mr. Bird, did you figure out how many employees?
I think totally they've got like 196 if you don't count truck drivers. But truck drivers, they told me, don't all come to the site. They have some local drivers. The long haul drivers take their truck home with them. They may be in Monroeville, Evergreen. They're dispatched out their pickup, delivery, whatever, go get their trailer.
Is the current structure strictly an office, or is it more than an office?
Yeah, it's just office.
Okay. All right. Any questions of the board for the applicant? Okay. Do we have anyone in the audience either in support or opposition today? All right. That'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Comments to the board? And just a reminder that the staff's recommended we get an updated site plan. Yeah, it looks like it's just a series of properties. All right. Chair, entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Staff, if we recommend approval, can we go ahead and do that, but still have Jerry submit an updated site plan?
Yes, it was, oh, sorry. Yes, it would strictly be a condition of approval before his permits
Before
are
the permit's
issued.
issued, okay.
For that modular structure, we would require the updated plan for the overall property.
Yeah, and they gotta have building permits for the structure anyway.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay, before anyone makes a motion, I would ask that you also decide on a time frame.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Seems like to me it'd be more appropriate for a year. I mean, if he's going to make a decision, I mean, I don't understand the 2 years because it just seems like.
Let Mr. Milling finish
Yeah,
his
I'm
comment.
just gonna maybe answer, but if Jeremy, if they have the unit there for a year, they make that decision, then you and I know it probably take a year to do something else to rectify that situation. You know, as far as a new building or maybe an addition by the time they get permits.
The one,
Yes.
in terms of the time frame, the reason this is before the board is because the property's not properly zoned, for a tractor trailer shipping business. However, it's there. We have multiple variances allowing it to be there. If the use were appropriate, were proper, there would be nothing to bring this application before the board because it's complying with setbacks.
Strictly because of what its current zoning is.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's complying with setbacks, it's compliant with required parking, etc. So if the building's there for a year or moving forward, other than the fact, the use is a tractor trailer business, everything else is compliant. And it's an existing tractor trailer business there.
So it would be consistent, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. It would be consistent
From a site development
from a
standpoint.
site development standpoint and for what has been approved on variances and multiple variances. So for all intents and purposes, the use is compliant, but it's not zoned, but the variances have been given.
The use is not compliant, but the way where the building's going, the size of the building, it meets all the site
But
development
it's compliant
standards.
with the variances that have
That
been
is
given.
correct. The only thing that brings it back before the board is that variances are site plan specific.
Understood. But it is in compliance with basically everything they've done so far.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank
There was an error in the agenda. Initially, when it was written up, we had wrote it up for 2 temporary office buildings. It's really only one. It's a double wide. And at initial look, somebody misinterpreted that as being two separate temporary offices. It's one office building, but it's a double wide.
Okay. Any further questions of the board? With that, Chair, entertain a motion. Okay, a motion to approve. Do I have a second? What about time frame?
That's fine. Staff, if approved, would like to have a site plan showing the overall development of the property, including this new proposed building.
Recommend approval subject to Mr. Byrd submitting a updated site plan for the whole property, and that the time frame of the trailer to be there is 2 years, with the assumption that they're going to decide in about a year, but I was not going to make that part of it. But that's the reasoning for the 2 years.
Okay, a motion to approve with conditions. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any other? Okay, motion carries. correct me if I'm wrong, 6510, which is 263 and 267 Dolphin Street. Good afternoon, name and address, sir.
Hey, good afternoon. Ortiz Walker. Address is 267 Dolphin Street. Here with my older brother Napoleon on behalf of Box Out Downtown Container Park that we're looking to open and provide multi-dining concepts right there in the middle of Dolphin Street.
Okay, and we have a handout too, if any of you want to look at it. All right, so we have materials, transparency, mechanical equipment screening, and frontage type variances to allow metal siding, reduced transparency, and security bars, no mechanical equipment screening, and a non-compliant frontage type. UDC does not allow those particular metal type. It requires compliant transparency, prohibits security bars, and mechanical equipment screening requires a compliant frontage type. I guess one of the questions I have is, we have multiple renderings here, so we want to go through that first.
I think I only have one rendering. That's I don't know if the.
Yeah.
So one of those is not a rendering. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. So it does match the rendering with the exception of the deck system that is to be constructed overhead. This whole conversation started November 2020, even before we bought both properties with the City of Mobile. I own a food truck here called Smack Shack, pretty popular food truck on Food Network a couple times. But we used to lease this same lot, which was previously the Lost Garden, and you just kind of sit there and visualize additional, things that they could do with that lot and building or whatnot. I mean, you guys, if y'all are familiar with downtown, you know how long the Weber building has been a blight, and as well as that alleyway became a public restroom and a place for people to sleep late at night. So just trying to improve on that area. When it came up for sale, even before we bought it, we had a meeting with the City of Mobile in 2020 where we laid out a phasing plan, with the first part of that phasing plan being to construct shipping containers that are modified for people to cook out of. Originally, we were thinking about food trucks, but it's just not that area is not good for traffic in and out, and so we came up with these modified containers to allow 6 different small businesses the opportunity to cook and sell food, whatever their cuisine is, right there in the middle of downtown without having to have $250,000 of investment, into another building. Again, what I have behind me represents all of my food vendors who are, they have their menus picked out, they're ready to rock and roll. I didn't find out so we went through all the formalities as far as laying out the phasing plan, as far as doing the containers first, then focusing on the building, and then the third phase being the overall deck system that you can see right here. So since then, I've had constant coordination with the city. We passed the ARB. They approved us for metal buildings. The CRC, and they've made statements before like, hey, you have to get a variance. But it's like when I get approval for them, we think we got a variance. I didn't even know this fine board existed until about a month ago when they was like, hey, you can't open. We had our last meeting with them in November as we were trying to press and get open before Mardi Gras. And even that at that point in time, the conversation was, hey, Mr. Walker, the metal has to be on the building before we can operate. And so it's never been, I've never shied away from that same phasing plan and the celebration of shipping containers here in the port city. Of course, when I found out a month ago that, hey, the front storefront has to be in place before you can open, well, then that kind of changes everything. The hardship that we have here is, y'all can see it on the picture right here. So the storefront, which complies with the,
You're good.
I'm pretty loud without a mic. the storefront, which complies with the DDD. So we developed this essentially as we developed this as our attempt to play within the downtown area. As you can see from there, modified shipping containers in the middle of downtown does not, fit the original intent of the DDD. However, that's where the most densely populated areas are in Mobile being Port City. The celebration of shipping containers exists. So right here, this structure, so this is the deck system right here that's planned for phase 2/phase 3. This system right here houses the front storefront that we have in place for this. When learning, hey, you have to have a storefront in place beforehand, we did coordinate with our structural engineer. There's a cross tie in here that supports this deck from going forward or backward. And so there's no such thing as just building the front section of it. The proper way to construct that is from the middle going out like this. Again, like I said, so our initial race was to get ready for Mardi Gras. What we're requesting here is not to vary any from the DDD, but to stick with the same plan that we have in place, which is requesting a temporary variance to allow the food vendors to get up and open operational. At that moment, the park continues construction with the deck system by building the vertical post and then going from there.
Mr. Anderson, you have a question?
So phase 1 is exactly what's constructed now, which is the buildings themselves, the little kitchenette areas. Of course, you have to have all the site in place, so all of your grease traps, utilities, all of your gas lines, all of that is part of phase 1. That is complete. Phase 2 initially phase 2 is the deck system, with phase 3 being renovation of the Weber building. Early on, we found out that you can't open the containers without having some type of accessible restroom, not porta potties, not some kind of trailer toilet. You need to have some real restrooms. And so what was phase 3 with the Weber building became part of phase 1. And so again, like I said, we knew that early, and so we made adjustments early. And so when we're ready to open, part of that opening will be the Weber building and the lot as is depicted here, which just leaves phase 2, which is the deck system, which we very much intend to build in that same format that we've been preaching for, God, almost 3 years now. I feel old just saying 2020.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What's your time frame?
12 months, sir. I say 12 months. Again, anybody who knows me know I'm very, very aggressive when it comes to time frame.
Yeah, but your 12 months is completion.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Opening, completion.
No.
Food coming out.
I'm sorry. So my phase one time frame can be as soon as several weeks from now.
I understand. I'm talking for
the deck system. Yes, sir. 12 months.
For everything.
For everything.
That's what I want to know. Everything.
Yes, sir.
Serving food, everything's done.
Serving
phase
food,
1, 2, 3.
deck system there. Nice little glass fixtures that's in container doors.
Okay.
Pictured as they are right here. Less than 12 months, but 12 months being more conservative.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman. As somebody who was involved in the DDD from the beginning, well, first of all, let me say I applaud your creativity. I think it's super cool, and I really think this concept's neat. The one thing that I want to see if you can clarify, because it concerns me, is like looking at this picture, to me, is not, indicative of kind of what the DDD was trying to do. I mean, this looks like metal garage buildings to me in that alleyway, but what to me changes all that is that depiction right there of the facade. And so I guess what I'm trying to understand is, are you trying to get a variance so that you can start open and get going with it looking like this, but we would approve that, but you're going to do this?
Yes, sir. That's why I'm requesting a temporary variance as I continue construction to build so the deck system structurally supports the front facade that's right here.
And is the support going to tie from the Weber building to the Downtown Alliance building, or is the support go?
No.
How's the support?
So the deck is structurally the deck is independent of either building.
Okay.
So structurally, and that's my challenge.
You'll just have columns and
yes,
support.
sir. There'll be vertical columns. Again, this cross tie right here, which supports this motion on the deck system. Like I said, I did look at just building the front part of the deck to serve as structural for the facade. But again, when you take that cross tie and move it from the center to the front, then you put a huge metal X in front of those front two containers, which definitely makes it challenging for them to do any kind of business.
So I guess playing devil's advocate for a minute, let's say we approve that variance and then you run into some kind of hiccup that delays that. I guess my thought process is being concerned that this stays like this for an extended period of time and you can't hit the deadlines for some unforeseen situation, because I just don't think this is in keeping with what, was trying to be created with the DDD and, predictability as far as the quality of things that are going to be developed.
Understand. So I can tell you, after all the war rooms of, bringing this project to this far, and after 15 years of project management experience with the Army and the Air Force, typically what would delay a project like this would be funding. And that's not an issue for us. We've already been approved for a $1.3 million loan through the Small Business Administration. And, outside of that, with this part already, so the funding is already specified there for that. I'm not seeing anything outside of that would push that to 12 months. Like I said, I'm more aggressive. If I didn't have my older brothers behind me, pressing me, I'd tell y'all 6 months. In the event that 12 months from now that the front facade is not all the way in place, then I'll be right back here at this podium, and something extraordinary would have to happen. It wouldn't be funding related. It wouldn't be materials related, because this is your basic cold roll steel. It wouldn't be resources, because it doesn't take a year to construct that. The hours are specified now to where vendors can operate Thursday for dinner and then all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come Monday morning we can start construction again with the deck system. And so the project was designed to construct a deck in phase 2 or 3.
And a couple other questions, Mr. Chairman, real quick. As far as building, so you'll be open on when, if approved, you would be open when?
So if approved, while construction of the deck occurs, so the initial plan going in is to open for dinner on Thursdays, so Thursday afternoon, and then all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That would provide any type of construction all day Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the early part of Thursday to resecure the property. We have sufficient laydown area in the back that's able to be walled off. Again, like I said, we designed this project to continue construction while the pods, operate and whatnot.
Who's your architect?
Carlos Gant.
Okay, and the contractor?
South Florida SIPS.
What is it? I'm sorry.
South Florida SIPS. Okay. So SIPS is structurally insulated paneling. Many people, so that early conversation, not only, so they look like shipping containers. Unfortunately, once you start hacking into an actual shipping container, you compromise the structural integrity of it. And so these are actually called SIP containers. They're two hardy boards sandwiched with foam on the inside of it, rated category 5 and insulated at R50 maybe.
The last comment I would make is just if the board was inclined to approve this, I do think it would be in y'all's best interest to do some type of planters, landscaping, just something that breaks up that line so that it kind of disappears and is shaded by something that's a lot more attractive to kind of the
Yes, sir, Mr.
pedestrian.
Miller. So that photo is, again, we're not open. And so that's, your 95% of phase one. Definitely, we already have a couple of quotes from Greenscape Landscaping, a couple $1,000s worth of landscaping in the front of the building, even as depicted right here on the rendering. We've also been in discussions with the Downtown Alliance. I know they have a nursery type program. We're right next door to them, and so they're there anyway. And so we have utilized both of those vehicles to make sure that as we near closer to opening, we're able to put more planters in place and make the whole thing more attractive.
Okay, back to my original question or comment. CRC approved in December 2021 this rendering.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But what we're looking at today is this rendering, which is slightly different than that picture. So I guess it's either for you or the staff to help me understand what will we end up with as a product.
Well, the image that was submitted for the BOA application reflects what was submitted for permitting, and it does not reflect the rendering that's being shown. So new drawings need to be submitted to permitting, which reflect not only the rendering that they're presenting, but also the approvals they received from the Consolidated Review Committee and the Architectural Review Board, showing the glazing, the stucco on the metal, if they're going to get stucco on the metal.
So I'll talk through this part, and what you have there. I think they had comments provided from the CRC to Carlos Gant Architecting. They provided back and forth. They wanted clarification on several different things. I'll build whatever y'all tell me to build. I'm gonna lay it out there. You throw yourself at the mercy of the board that you didn't know existed a month ago, and
I think we're just trying to make sure whatever we consider is what we end up with.
Yes, sir.
As a product.
Definitely, this is what I intended to look like as far as I think Carlos had in his note 65% transparency. The metal right here that be here will be rolled in stucco to better formulate with the DDD. This is right here is what the site will look like in a 12-month time period. I have no intentions to vary from that at all.
Okay, what about the gates? I don't see the gates on that rendering, but you're requesting a variance for the security bars.
So initially, it is a wrought iron fence, which if I'm reading the DDD wrong, it is permitted. So that fence initially was set back 20 feet into the property. When it was installed in early January. Of course, New Year's Eve happened, and the first thing we thought about was a 400 square foot area that's ducked off, that police presence on the corner of Dolphin and Jackson Street, or Dolphin and Joachim Street, is unaware of. And so we pushed that, we pushed that fence forward from to lessen the area that any kind of activities while we're closed can go on. The intention is for that gate to slide in and out. It won't even be visible unless we're closed. What was previously allowed, and this is from, so that idea came from the Architectural Review Board. What was previously approved was a metal garage door. And one of the biggest questions I got was, when are you going to be open? Because we don't want to see a metal garage door at all times. Again, the decision to go from metal garage door to, it's actually aluminum, but it just looks like wrought iron fencing, which we saw was approved in the DEDD. The decision to go that path was based on that conversation with the Architecture Review Board.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so to Mr. Guess's point, since what was given to us is different than that, if we approve that, then it would be subject to the city receiving the drawings and plans that create that.
That's correct. I mean, he did submit the rendering with his application to the board, but then the architectural drawing
Plans were a little bit different.
shows shows a different facade.
Okay.
So
All
he
that.
would need
Yes,
to
sir.
submit revised architectural plans to permitting that reflects the rendering that he actually
Okay.
intends to build.
Yes, sir. And to me, and
Let him finish,
go ahead,
please.
I'm sorry.
And I think the board, if it's looking at approval, will need to approve, if you turn to page 5 of the report, right above the staff comments, there were listed 5 different items. The board would probably need to approve the security bar variance and the pedestrian forecourt frontage variance in order for him to build what he is proposing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so that would allow him to get started and to work towards that 12-month,
Well, getting those two done with the condition that he submit a revised set of architectural plans to permitting, and that reflects the rendering that he's going to build, that allows him to move forward with the first phase of opening with the pods,
as of today, that would allow him.
assuming all other things are addressed.
Can you say those two conditions again, so I have that?
It's the condition relating to the security bars and the condition relating to the frontage type.
And just to clarify, so that there is no question regarding what, if the board approves this, what the board wants in terms of plans submitted to permitting, it is the rendering that is on page 14 of the reports. That rendering is that.
Which shows the doors with glazing and shows a stucco overlay eventually over the metal exterior.
Yeah, which is that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And
Hold on before we confuse the applicant. So you understand what we're talking about as far as the security bars, and we want it to
Yes.
look like that, but
I want, yes, sir. So when I look at Carlos's drawing, so it's in black and white and it's a front view, and whatever additional details he needs to add on there to show this is glazing, this is metal rolled and stucco, these are plants, this is a dog passing by. Whatever Carlos needs to do to make that drawing depict exactly this, I'm game for it. It's this is the vision behind me. I plan for nothing else to go up.
I think we all seem to, based on comment, like it, the render.
Well, thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, any other questions of the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The long-term, what's the plan for securing the site?
So the fence was pushed forward based on reducing the amount of, I call it duck-off area. I don't know if there's an official term to say it, but, you know, like I said, so it's a huge police presence right there on Jackson and Dolphin Street. And typically there's one on Joachim and Dolphin. But, you know, when they put the big tower up of shining lights, you know, if you got 400 square feet worth of, you know, the cops can't see what I'm doing over here.
I think you're trying to say alcove space.
Yes, whatever that word was. And so you push that fence forward, and then, like I said, so once it's complete, that fence is definitely not a drop-down garage door. That fence is a automated type, you know, wrought iron fence approved by the city.
So this fence that's there now is temporary?
Yes, sir. The same materials will be used on the permanent fence. I'm not just throw dollars out in the wind. The same gates themselves, the fence company will reformat them a different way. But yes,
It'll
sir.
be something that your architect draws and then has permitted?
Absolutely, sir.
It's approved.
Yes, sir.
I just want to be clear, because I'm looking at this, I don't see anything like that.
So that one right there, and this is the one that got passed through whatnot. So can I see that thing?
No.
Oh, I got my own picture right here. So right here, so there's a drop down garage door that comes right
Above the lights?
here, right there. So 20
Oh,
feet
back
right
in the
there.
bracing.
Yes, sir.
So you're past the first set of pods.
Yes.
Okay,
So this
that's fine.
this drop down garage door, and again, after coordinating with your Christine Dawson, who, I love downtown. She definitely loves downtown from an architecture perspective. Everyone hated the idea of a drop down garage door when we're not operating. I love to tell y'all we're going to be operating from 10 in the morning to midnight every day, but that's just not going to be the case. So you change that material to raw iron. And again, like I said, initially we were going to place that same fence right here, except for, after, I think we all are aware what happened New Year's Eve. Like literally, my crew cleaned up blood off the sidewalk that morning. And so we definitely
Back to the garage door
Yes, sir.
versus the metal gates. So in earlier comment, you talked about those possibly being a slide
Yes, sir.
system that would kind of hide into the components of the frontage.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Whatever you come up with have to be sent to the city for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm more in favor of that, but that's my point.
Yes.
And
So this whole conversation started with a call that I had to Ms. Pappas about some things that we, that we, of course, it was the fence and it was a couple of other things, but the whole process started of me understanding that a board exists from that conversation.
Yeah. Margaret, you had something?
The one other thing I wanted to point out, just to make sure we're all clear, there's a window shown in that first pod that's going to be installed, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just
Yes,
wanted to
ma'am.
make sure, because everything we're seeing here, minus the dog and the bikes, is what we're looking for on the plans.
Yes, ma'am. So that window, and I'll coordinate back with Carlos and just get whatever percentage it is. I think we're at 65%. I don't know if the requirement is 20% or 40% or whatever the requirement is. And we didn't install it initially just because it wasn't, that part is not even operational come day one. And so we'll give you guys whatever you guys need.
Okay. Any other questions of the board?
I have a question for staff. So maybe I'm confused here, and you can help. We're talking about he's trying to get open. I get it. So he just needs a temporary CO. And to complete his plans. I guess I'm lost on what he needs a variance for.
Well, what we have before you, there was nothing that I found in researching the request in terms of what was submitted for permits, what was done with the CRC or the ARB that talked about the phasing. The only phasing that I found was his initial pre-development meeting in 2020. So from a CRC standpoint, we're expecting to see a completed project before we issue a CO of any sort. And also, again, the drawings that were submitted and approved through permitting do not match what was approved by the CRC or the ARB, or they don't match the rendering either. So he needs to submit a set of architectural drawings that matches all of that in order for him to get at least a temp CO for phase one.
Yeah. And that's what I'm sorry.
It was kind of summarized. I think we spent some time on this. Go ahead.
Right. Well, and I guess so. And maybe we're premature here. Maybe he needs to have those plans in front of you before we make a decision. Right now, we're talking about a rendering that hadn't been. I mean, there's so many things here that vary from this to this. That what?
Well, in the handout that you have, that where the first page says CRC December 21, that's a drawing that's very similar to the rendering, and the drawing was prepared by his architect. So the architect has prepared the drawings. They were just never been submitted for permitting. So we're just trying to make sure that it's all matching going forward.
So excuse me. This is where I get confused because the ARB says, "Hey, you're good to go with metal buildings." The CRC has a copy of this drawing, and so So from a owner perspective, and if I had a time machine, I'd make myself a lot smarter a couple of years ago. But that's all we're requesting, a temporary certificate of occupancy on the buildings. We separated them. Matter of fact, the permitting office separated them individually in the event that these pods were ready and this deck system was not. And so everything going in was set up to in phases. We didn't pull it up under the same one giant permit. They separated it for the phasing purposes. Like I said, up until a month ago, I thought we were going down to the path of requesting a temporary certificate of occupancy for the buildings as construction continues on the deck system. Which in that case means I'm requesting a temporary variance.
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Chairman, on that note, what you just said, my question to staff is that's what if we approve this, that's what we're doing, giving him an opportunity to go ahead and temporarily move towards the end result. That's what we are attempting to approve, if approved.
What's going to happen is that he'll be able to open the pods without having the front facade completed, but he will eventually complete the front facade based on your approval. But he will also then submit the drawings that show it all working together.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, can we call for the question?
I'm going to call for questions, but we've got several people in the audience. I wanted to see if anybody had any comments to add. And if you'll just take a second and let us do that, and then we'll get back to questions. We're allowed 4 individuals in support and 4 in opposition. So as you come down, good afternoon, sir.
I'm Mike Dow. Pleased to be down here. Just a little perspective here.
And I hate to ask, but your address, sir.
1012 Palmetto.
All right, thank you.
Right there in Washington Square. And all the redevelopment we've done here in the past couple of decades, you had the Heroes thing, the Spotted Tea thing. You guys know that. Everybody has to have some kind of little assistance to make sure we do this stuff right, and I appreciate the process. I think the main thing here is you've got some vendors who have purchased equipment, are ready to go, ready to serve the foods and stuff. And these vendors just can't sit here, for a long period of time. It's going to hurt them business-wise to do that. That's one issue. And I'm interested in this site because as chairman of the Contemporary Arts Center, we used to own the site, and it was just a deserted, empty lot that was ugly and something always going on in it. The Weber building's been empty, and Jake Peavy had got involved in this to do something of this nature. And when Napoleon and Artius got involved in this, I just committed to them. I said, hey, I'll try to help any way I can. And I'm not trying to get involved in the process. I'm just saying that the immediacy of it, this phasing will allow them to give it what everybody wants to have. And I'd just like to request if we could, separate that and give them that temporary ability to operate. It will be good business and help downtown and help these guys, help the vendors. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Do we have others that would like to add anything today? In support. Yes, sir. Your name and address.
I'm Bill Appling, 2601 Imogene, but also property at 7, 9, 11, and 13 South Joachim. So I'm directly across from the site. We've been there since 1953. I fully understand what it takes to get one of these buildings together. I spent my time when I was very young working on my building in the 80s when no one else was downtown. And I had to do it in pieces. And it took me a couple of 3 years. It's not going to take him that long. I've seen the speed that he's worked already. I've looked at his project. I've been inside his project. It is moving quickly. He will meet his deadlines. He will meet his deadlines. I'm approved that they, or wish that y'all would approve the project as it is with your stipulations, and let's get him open and get his people making money and let him get to where we get this project finished. We've had too many unfinished projects downtown and too many things that didn't work, and I think financially it was an issue for these folks. And you've got folks that want to go into these little spaces and start their business, and like Mike said, they're ready, and they will fail waiting for this project to be completely completed before they get open. So if y'all can approve this, please, by all means, do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of the applicant? We appreciate everyone's patience today. This is kind of a different concept for us.
I'm Stuart Donald. My business is going to be the Mac and Cheesery at 267 Government Street. I've been a chef for over 35 years. Most of you have eaten my food, whether you know it or not. If you've ever eaten at Wenzel's or Bond's Bistro or the Greer's Market, I'm the chef that opened that. I also co-host Sip and Chew with Mike and Stu on FM Talk 106.5. And I have personally had a hand in the growth of this downtown area for the last 10 years. And I've been able to see how downtown has changed. This is a change that Mobile needs. Most people don't know it, but our food scene in tiny downtown Mobile of 175,000 people is right up there with what Birmingham's doing with 1 million people. It's up there with Nashville. Things like this are why we are getting national attention as a destination for entertainment. And I was talking to some people beforehand. 100 years ago, there was a writer from right up in Magazine Point. In my opinion, he is the greatest writer from Mobile, Albert Murray. And he once said that as a kid, he would pop into clubs on Royal Street. He said the first club would be Louis Armstrong playing. Then I'd sneak into the next club, and it's Cab Calloway, then Ella Fitzgerald, then Duke Ellington, all on Royal Street in Mobile. There's a book called Stars Fell on Alabama, and in it the writer says in the late 1800s, first 1900s, it was considered a musician or an artist from Europe. You didn't make it until you made it in the U.S. You didn't make it in the U.S. until you made it in the South. And you didn't make it in the South until you made it in Mobile. This used to be one of the entertainment centers in this entire country. And we have been working hard together, all of us, you gentlemen, those up here, to return Mobile to our rightful status as the cultural epicenter of the South. Things like this are what do it. I can sit here and tell you that I've got my entire life savings into this business. So can these other people, and you have people that come in here every day before you that have invested everything that they have in it. All I'm trying to do is invest what I have in downtown Mobile and move it forward. Because I've been invested in it for 10 years doing a radio show. Now I'm investing my personal wealth in it. What little I've gained in the restaurant industry. This is not an industry where you get rich unless you own. I can work as an executive chef for 50 years. I'm never going to have a $100,000 paycheck. It just doesn't happen. This is the only way that I can reward myself for the 35 years I put in this industry is for me to be the owner. Right now, I'm running out of retirement. I'm running out of savings. I'm staying afloat, but I got maybe another month or two in me, and then I'm adding a third job to the two I already have. Just like y'all to consider the human element of that. I know you gentlemen do a fine job, and I appreciate your time.
I have a question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
One we haven't asked any of the other individuals is, he's talking about phasing this.
Mm-hmm.
Working Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That's my money days.
Do you see any hardship with him or contractors working around these facilities on those odd days that it might?
Oh, absolutely not. I help open up the Greers, and what I've done most of the last 10 years is I help places open. I come in, I set up operation systems so they know how to run a kitchen, they know how to schedule, and all of that. I have worked around some really hellacious predicaments, and like Greer's was, that was quite an ordeal getting that building turned around. And the way that SMAC has it planned out is great. That's 3.5 days that they can do construction and 3.5 days that we can sell food, and they don't overlap. We're not walking in a construction area, and they're not constructing in an open business. I mean, that's as good as safety's going to get in a situation like that.
Oh, that's what I want to hear from you. Okay.
Anything else from me?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone else that needs to speak in support? How about opposition? Anybody here in opposition today? All right. We have none for the record. Do you have anything else to add? Any questions to the board for the applicant one last time?
Are all of those pods currently leased?
Yes, sir.
They are?
Yeah, so all of them are leased. Some of the leasees are in different stages as far as ready to operate. And so your vendors who've been committed to, as far as lease would box out for a year or so, a year and a half. So they're more than ready. Come, if I were open tomorrow, they'd be ready tomorrow. Some of your newer vendors that came on, they've provided their deposits or whatnot, but they're just waiting as well and getting themselves either they were operating in a food truck and they're canceling out dates, or they were operating on another job or something to that effect, and so they're gearing up as well. But yes, sir, all the pods are leased.
Please, if the board is inclined to approve it, please, please, please landscape, because I do think that you're going to set the tone and bridge that gap between what is current and what it's going to be. And
Yes, sir.
I think it will set a totally different tone than kind of what the current visual is.
Absolutely. It's nothing more important to me than how Box Out is perceived. And so definitely, early on, I was like, Architecture Review Board, what's that? But, you know, as you grow and love and invest in downtown, I love it just as much. I don't want to see any ugly blights. And so, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one comment as well, or a question. You've got how many pods?
6 total.
So how are the patrons going to know that who's in what? As far as I don't see signage, is it going to be on the pods?
On the pods, yes, sir.
Within the courtyard?
Within the courtyard, yes, sir.
Okay, nothing on the frontage of the...
Not at this time. We intend nothing to be on the front of it at this time. People are going to come there. I mean...
No, I'm not questioning
Yes,
that.
sir.
I'm just thinking, you know, you keep seeing us having signage, variance requests. That'll be the
Flappy
next item.
arm signs and stuff blinking. No, sir. We do not intend to do that.
Okay. All right, any other questions of the board? All right, I think that will conclude our public hearing for your application today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think procedurally, what we're looking at, somebody mentioned the temporary variances. We would, if so inclined, you would approve the variances requested, and the staff, and Margaret, listen to me and make sure I'm getting this right, the staff would issue a temporary CO once all of the applications and plans have been submitted for review, given the temporary CO to be, with work to be completed within 12 months. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'm probably fixing to get in the weeds. Okay, I think everybody's in agreement. We need plans that are CRC, ARB compliant with what we're looking at in this picture up here.
With exception how the gate system's incorporated.
Then the board would be granting a variance of the security bars and the pedestrian forecourt. That's a frontage type in the DDD.
Okay.
Those variances, if the board so chose, would then be approved. What you would also be looking at are deferring, going back to page 5 in the bullets under March 2, 2023, you're essentially allowing them to open without screening the mechanical equipment, not applying the exterior finish, and not complying with transparency.
With that to be completed within 12 months.
Exactly. But then those last 2 bullets on the security bars and the pedestrian forecourt, you're looking at granting that today. The other thing that I would bring up, because it's been somewhat mentioned, but I want to make sure it's clear, more so to the applicant, this board is strictly sitting and deciding on the DDD issues. Any issues with building code, fire, and mechanical are not under this board's purview and have to be handled in their own disciplines. Correct.
Okay. Any questions of the board or staff as it relates to the discussion? All right.
I think it's clear, Mr. Chairman, what we're looking at. And there's a lot of discussion, a lot of verbiage. What has just recently been said Do not want that to get lost in this motion nor in the directive to the applicant. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Proceed.
So move that the language as stipulated by staff, that this variance request on a temporary basis would be approved.
Okay, so security bars and the pedestrian frontage, is that,
Yes, everything that Ms. Piper said.
okay, with updated plans and with a time frame of 12 months to complete. All the other will be.
In coordination with the city, yeah.
In coordination with the city. All right, I have that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to y'all. Sorry about the length of time, everyone, but this is a little new to us. All right. Yeah. Good luck to you. All right. Any other? Oh, hey, wait, board, before we leave. All right. Just so you know, my understanding, and I'll let Margaret help me with this. The meeting last time, we had an appeal.
Yes, just to advise the board, you have 2 appeals from last month's meeting. One is the Griffith Shell. The other is the building on the Civic Center property. We were just advised of those within the deadline, and we'll keep you updated as things move forward.
Okay, and the one with the Civic Center property may not be an issue for us because they're working on alternate mediation, is what I understand.
No, it's still in the field of our decision.
Yeah, but
Whether they go to court or mediate it, it's still a lawsuit that's going to.
yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Any other
you.
business?